10, please.
Taylor Bacchus, student representative.
Charles Shea, Marlboro.
Sue Rattler, Marlboro.
Joe Connor Hebron.
Judy Benson, Marlboro. Dave, you're next.
David Castanian, Andover.
Amy DiMatteo, Hebron. Stephanie Bancroft, Andover.
Tom Fremont Hebron.
Cat Law, Superintendent of Schools, Region 8.
Karen D. Carlino, Board Clerk.
Okay, thank you. So next is Pledge of the Allegiance, excuse me. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. And then that brings us to public comments. Are there any public comments? If so, please state your name and the town you're from. Okay. And this, so next we go to addition and deletion of agenda items, number 4. Are there any suggested additions or deletions to the agenda? No? Okay, that brings us, this might be a quick meeting, to number 5, report of the superintendent.
Starting with the DOT update, we just got an email from one of the committee members who's helping to guide the process, saying that the Luke's committee is finishing their drafting of some plans. They'll be sending them to committee members in a PDF format for us to review, and then we'll be looking to set a first public meeting for people to take a look at the drawings and get feedback from that process. As far as the strategic plan goes, that's on the agenda for tonight, so we don't need to discuss that further. General updates, I don't know what my students are going to talk about, but hopefully about Coach Moyer. Are you going to do that?
Wonder if we should, just as a, how we pursue that, wonder if we should actually put them before you.
You know what, they're right after me, but certainly next time we can move them right before me. So how about next meeting?
Keep
we do
moving
that?
up.
So you keep moving up. So we'll move you up next time. So just briefly that Coach Moyer, the girls basketball coach, was named the USA Today Connecticut Girls Basketball Coach of the Year. And the girls team is going to the state capitol and being hosted by Representative Osteen this Wednesday. The Florida field trip to Disney was a wonderful success for our music department. It was just fantastic. I've seen several emails come my way about just great feedback about that. So thank you to the teachers and the chaperones who made that happen, as well as the students who performed wonderfully. You do have in front of you budget flyer handouts that you can use as talking points as board members as you're talking about the budget. They were also shared in your last weekly updates. I actually made you some copies, and if you need more, just let me know. As a reminder, the budget referendum is May 8th. And the safety magnets that we talked about right before break were installed over the vacation. Every classroom that has a door has those on the door handle, and we started using those today. And lastly, our cleanup day, which is scheduled for this Saturday. We're watching the weather because right now it doesn't look great again. So somehow the weather honestly feels like it's not going to be very cooperative this year, but we'll keep an eye on it. And if we do have to cancel or reschedule, I'll certainly let people know. That brings us then to the Windows project, just kind of update from SGH. Our representative, Katie Winsink, is here. And she is just here to answer any questions you have, give you a brief overview of where we are with the Windows project. So, Katie, thank you very much for coming.
Yep, no problem. So I spoke with EFCO today, and well, I guess, so the building contains 4 types of glass that we're replacing. There's 2 types of clear glass, one type's in the punched windows, one type's in the curtain wall, and then we have standroll glass and tinted glass. We're looking at 4 different types total. Of the 4, we've received the necessary submittals for 2 of the types, and we've approved them. So speaking with EFCO today, they have confirmed that they have ordered those 2 types of glass from Viracon. They don't have a specific date for delivery yet, but they have a window of 6 to 8 weeks. So that puts it, well, it's 6 to 8 weeks to EFCO in Missouri somewhere, and then they'll deliver it to the site here. So that's probably around June 8th to June 22nd when they're anticipating delivery, and we'll let you know when they have a confirmed date. I brought the samples of the 2 types of glass that have been approved. If you guys are interested in looking at those, I can pass them around. You want to see them? Okay. So this is the clear glass that will go in the punched windows.
Katie, can you give us an example of where a punch window is in the building?
So the punched windows are the small windows that are divided into 4 lights. A lot of the classrooms on the first floor. And then some of the upper small windows in the media center. Pretty much the smaller windows. The curtain wall is like in the the weightlifting room and the cafeteria, and a lot of the entrances have curtain wall. And the curtain wall is the bigger pieces of glass. So the main difference between the 2 types is the punched windows, small pieces, thinner glass. Big pieces, thicker glass.
Can we ask questions as?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why she's here.
So you're going to be one of the people assigned to this project. You're Catherine?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And then this is the spandrel glass. So the spandrel glass usually goes in places where you have structure behind the glass so that you don't see the structure, but it looks like a continuous kind of glass curtain wall on the outside. So it's got just an opaque coating on the back. So those 2 types have been ordered, and they account for about half of the glass on the project. EFCO received samples like this for the other 2 types of glass, and they will send them to Michael tomorrow, so he should receive those Wednesday or Thursday. He'll turn them around, review them, and then send them to me. So we should get those approved probably Friday or Monday, depending on how quickly I get them.
I have a question.
Yep.
This insulating in that, it's double-sided and it has what kind of gas or material?
So it's just air
It's air.
between the 2 pieces of glass.
Okay. Any solar film here?
It has a
It's
low
tinted?
E coating. Yep, so it's a very clear coating.
Uh-huh.
So if you look at, let's take it here, this VNE-63, that's the coating that's on it, and it's on the number 2 surface, which means the number 1 is the outside surface, the number 2 is the inside surface of the outer pane of glass, number 3, and then number 4 is the, so it's a very clear coating.
And how long has this product been on the market? Do you have any idea?
We've been using it for many, many years, decades. And it's actually the same manufacturer as what you have in middle school, right next door, Vibracon. So they've, been around for a long time, and
They perform well.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we were very happy when they submitted Vibracon.
Thank you. Good.
And then, so speaking with EFCO, they know that students are on campus until June 22nd. They would like to have guys here June 23rd to start sorting the glass, and then probably start actual removal of glass on June 25th, which would be that Monday. And then he asked, is there any sort of restrictions for working weekends, noise ordinances, stuff like that?
And we talked a little bit when we all met about those working weekends and needs for that, that we were going to try to stick with weekdays, but if we needed to look at weekends, we can certainly work on that with them.
Okay.
Absolutely. And that's part of why Michael's here tonight as well, and I just want to thank Michael Schleihofer for being here as well, since he was kind of our district liaison part with Katie and then working with EFCO, so.
Yep, so we're, aside from getting the glass submittals, we're still working with EFCO and getting all the other product submittals that might be used, new gaskets, definitely, maybe setting blocks to support the glass. You know, we plan on reusing the ones we have, but, you know, you never know what you're gonna find, and they should have some. So, yeah, we're looking good on the submittal front. I think we'll have all the paperwork in place.
I have
Yep.
a question. Once they start, as they do the installations with the pipes of glass, what type of process do you go through in order to test or examine and see if the installation is going to be watertight or it's the correct installation?
Right, so we're going to inspect every piece of glass that arrives on site before it gets installed. And we'll be looking at just continuity of the sealants, which is the primary barrier between getting moisture in the glass. We'll inspect every piece of glass, and then we'll also be on site a fair amount of time when the glass actually goes into the curtain wall or windows to review that process and make sure that's correct.
Is there any sort of test, like do glass with water? or-
We can water test areas afterwards.
Do you plan to? You say you can, but is that
Yeah, I mean,
normally?
certainly, we
Yeah.
have just budgeted, I think, maybe like 20 site visits, and we certainly could use one of our site visits to water test and confirm, you know, not everything, but specific
Yeah.
areas.
Yeah, I would expect it.
Yeah.
But at least the typical applications.
Yep.
If you indeed it is working.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't want to go through this again.
Dave, can you hear well? Dave?
Yes, I got it.
Okay.
So you're going to have, you're going to do 20 site visits, as I heard. So as far as maintaining like, a safe environment, making sure they're doing what they're supposed to do, is that going to happen within those 20 days, like 20 visits, or these surprise visits? Like, how do we know they're doing what they're supposed to be doing?
Right, so the purpose of our site visits won't necessarily be making sure they're working safely. That's kind of beyond our scope, but we're there to make sure they're following the correct installation, both from the specs that we created and the manufacturer's written instructions.
They
And-
do have, EFCO does have site managers that we have the names of and know who will be on site. They're the ones who will be working on making sure that the site is being maintained properly, that they know where to store things, where the scissor lift's going to be, and all of those parts, and working with Michael on that part of where's the best place to store things and maintaining a safe site, because that is their project manager's jobs.
No, I don't do this kind of work at all, so I'm just coming into this blind, like, should we trust them? Because they're the people, they're our, I don't want to say, they're the ones that we sue to get this, or we charge us?
We've agreed to
Agreed,
settlement with
right,
them.
right.
I think what we're looking at is that their site managers being the ones who have the site safe and are going through the process, and that they have the timeline created and all of that. The reason we have SGH as part of the project is to make sure that we're looking at the quality control of the actual process.
Okay, right.
So I think that's an important part that they are now part of that we didn't necessarily have before.
Okay, great.
Yep, and we'll create written field reports with photos following each site visit that'll highlight any issues that we're seeing and any corrections made, and kind of that acts as a running log. You know, so it stays in the field report until they correct it, and then we'll take it off the field report after we, write about their correction.
Thank you.
Mhm. Anyone else?
I'm just curious myself. You don't know how many trailers are going to be involved when this ever come on the site?
I don't.
That's okay, that's okay. I assume,
I can ask if you would like me to.
no, I'm just curious. I assume that nobody working here at RHAM has to touch the windows correctly? I mean, a
Other
tra-
than making sure stuff is pulled away from the windows,
well, yeah, but no, a trailer load of windows comes in, who unloads the trailer?
EFCO, the workers will.
They'll take care of all that, so nobody at RAM
Right.
has to touch the windows.
Right.
All right, so they'll be involved in taking them off, I'm sure, I know the installation of them, they're not humping the windows around, I mean. And will they be stored in the trailers when the trailers come in?
They'll be stored on the
They'll
trailers,
leave the
yeah.
box there, they'll leave the trailer?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure, they'll probably come and organize them, so they might move them around a bit. But yeah, they'll store them in the trailers or in a designated area, that they work out with Michael.
Okay,
And they'll assist us, like I said, we're gonna review every single piece before it goes in the building. So they'll move the pieces to facilitate our review. And any glass that doesn't meet our review, we'll put a big X on and send back.
And I had mentioned it before, and then they said it was a yes, that we don't really take possession of the window until it's installed in the building. In other words, if they're in the trailer and they get damaged, it's not our window,
Correct. Yep.
all right? Until it's installed in the building, then we take possession of the window.
Yep, and maybe, I mean, on a typical job, it would be at substantial completion, which would mean all the glass is in place and maybe they have some miscellaneous sealant to fix or small items, and then that would be the point where you would take possession of the window. So if it, is in the window and it gets hit by a rock for some reason and breaks, until substantial completion, they own it.
Okay.
Any other questions, thoughts?
You kind of went through the timeline really quick for me, so can we back up to your first, started over at the 6 to 8 weeks? That's from,
So the glass was ordered last Friday.
and that's from
3 days.
Viacom?
And that's from Viracon. And right now, Viracon's planning to deliver to APCO. APCO's trying to work out a deal where Viracon will just deliver straight here. But, if they can't do that, then I'm assuming another week for APCO to get it here. So we're looking at delivery sometime between June 8th and June 22nd.
So where is Viacom?
Viracon's in Minnesota,
And why do the windows have to go to EFCO?
because APCO's the client.
So they have to go, is EFCO touching the windows? Are they doing something to the windows?
No. They might have to move them from Viracon's truck onto an EFCO truck, but that's what they're working out. Maybe they'll drive their EFCO truck to Minnesota to have Viracon load them directly
Bring 'em
onto
here
their
directly.
truck and then bring them here, in which case they might show up earlier.
So June 8th, I wrote down June 8th through June 22nd, but you said something about removal of windows. What was the start date on that? June 23rd?
25th.
June 25th.
Yeah.
Removal of glass, okay.
Yep.
What was the June 23rd date?
That was, they want to have guys here June 23rd just to get organized and sort stuff. Yeah, sort the glass, figure out where the glass
internal
is.
office space for them, so they have an office space to
Yeah.
work from, just kind of get themselves
Okay. So EFCO on site, June 23rd, removal of glass, 25th. Okay. During the process, so I show on the contract 8 visits to their facility, EFCO, for your contract,
Mhm.
and 10 visits to the site here. Is that
Yeah, let me-
dated September?
Yeah, but we're doing one visit to Viracon. And then 8 visits to the site specifically to review the glass. And then 10 visits to the site to review the installation. So that's really just a total of 18 visits. If it takes us 4 visits to review the glass, and it takes the other 4 visits to review installation.
Okay.
Or it might come out that they're installing some glass when other glass arrives, so we can do both in one site visit.
So when you go to Viracon or EFCO,
Yep.
you're actually physically going to be going through the list of glass,
Mm-mm.
no?
So when I go to Viracon, it will be when they are just beginning making the glass for this order. So I'm gonna go there, I'm gonna watch their process, I'm gonna talk to them about their QA, QC controls, and really make sure we're comfortable with the process they're using to manufacture the glass for this project. So it's before really any of the glass is made.
Okay, so then what are the other visits you're gonna do to,
Right, so those 8 site visits is when we were gonna come to the site when the glass arrives on pallets in the trailer, and then look at each piece of glass for those 8 site visits. And then the other 10 were to be on site when they're putting the glass in the curtain wall or window to make sure they're following the correct
okay,
installation
I got
procedure.
that, okay. Thank you for
So
that.
yeah, those 18 are all here.
They're here.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
The trailer that's gonna be here for the managers, and workmen, is that gonna arrive earlier than the 22nd? I'm just wondering about graduation
Right.
and location and making
That's what
sure.
we're gonna have to make sure of for any of that, because the trailers they could get here on the 8th as well. So as soon as we know when they're gonna start to be moving things on site from large equipment to small equipment, we're gonna have to start working with facilities, with students, student parking, staff parking, graduation, and a year of athletics, all of those things to be able to organize our site and make it happen so that nothing is interfered with. So we'll be working on all of that.
Yeah,
We just
hopefully
want
the
to-
glass arrives before the 22nd. So they can, get started on the 25th.
So do you have a plan up as of this point, like we know that there's gonna be how many trailers, like where you're thinking about putting them?
Michael and I, as soon as we get more of this is kind of the closer deadline, and this is all the equipment, we had an initial list of equipment, like different types of scissor lifts and things like that. They also have to have dumpsters we have to be able to put on site, so we have to do that. We'll have to work with them to figure out where are they possibly planning on starting their pull-out of the windows to figure out where we need the dumpsters. So as the timeline gets a little closer, we'll start to work with them and with our campus and with Michael to figure out where does everything need to go. We have an overview of kind of what is coming, except the number of trailers exactly, but we don't have it all planned yet. So we've looked at the site, we have some initial ideas, but we're going to wait and hear the final list of things that we have to place.
Are you confident, piggybacking on that question, that it will look pristine for graduation and there will not be an impact from this?
We will try very hard to make sure that where the site is for graduation will not be impacted with any of these stuff, but there will very likely be things on campus on graduation day, but we will not look to have it over at the graduation site area.
Is that something you've thought about, or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so you're gonna, just a couple of questions that I had. So you're gonna verify, SGH is gonna verify window order, and we'll cover all the windows, right? You're gonna go through all?
Yes.
You're gonna verify the quantity and the installation and how, and the frequency of that? Is that part of your description? Well, question is, how many windows are they gonna do in a day? Is that somebody's oversight? So you're not the project manager, right?
Right.
So who is, I guess this question is directed to you, Pat, who is going to oversee and that they're following their schedule?
So what they are going to do, and they have to work with us through this process as well, because if you remember, we have summer school, we've got summer theater, we've got all kinds of things happening on campus that I'll be working with their project managers, we'll be working with Michael to take a look at where they need to start, where they're going to move, what windows they're going to do. If certain windows are here first, they might start in those types of rooms. So again, the timeline and the actual getting it all done is going to have to be a little bit flexible. If weather gets really bad for a while, what their initial timeline might change. They might do windows that are underneath an overhang or something like that so that they can keep doing that process and allow the weather to pass. So there's going to be a flexibility of actual timeline from week to week based on how quickly things are going, if they're taking out windows, if they're finding that they have more issues getting them out, they might need to slow a project weather. So there's a lot of communication that will happen between myself, the project managers, and Michael throughout this whole process, as well as with Katie and SGH, just to make sure that we know, okay, now they're going to start these types of windows, maybe it's a good time to come and look at these. So there's going to have to be flexibility on the timeline with any type of a project of this scope. But we've talked about that, we're aware of it, I know who all the people are, and we've got schedules that we all have to work with. We know what we have to tell teachers to do to clear the rooms before we're ready to go, so we can be as smooth as possible, and we'll work from there.
Well, one of my concerns is, and I think it should be a concern of the whole board, is that you're not a project manager and Mike's not a project manager. You know, in big jobs like this, you need to have somebody who's going to be the oversight and the authoritative person. You know, it's this is how we got into this problem, I think, in the first place, but that's behind us. But it sounds like a good plan, but when you don't have somebody who is going to be the heavy, and work and knows the construction side of it. You know, Tom may have some of that kind of experience, but I have in my previous experience, you know, with big jobs, you have to have somebody, and it's great that you're there because I think you've obviously carried this whole project personally, so thank you for that. But at the same time, you know, I don't want to see us get into a jam that Pat can't get us out of or Mike can't get us out of, and who's going to keep us on point? I mean,
I'll definitely be a heavy hand, anything related to quality. You know, if I see something, quality sliding, we will sound the alarms and get it fixed. As far as schedule, I have less pull on that. I would really rely on Pat and Michael.
Right, and we also have, the legal component that also can step in if things are not going as dictated in the settlement, which is the avenue that we would have to take that way. I plan to have regular meetings with them to talk about week by week, what is the schedule, what's the plan, so that we can take a look and know what it is. They know their start date cannot be before June 22nd. They know their end date for the start of school. They clearly said it will take all summer to get the project done. Hopefully, weather helps us a little bit on this one. But we have a plan in place to at least be talking about the process and making sure that we have regular check-ins and expectations of timelines and quality and performance.
Go ahead.
Well, basically, what Joe's asking, is there a clerk of the works, as you call it, that's what the name of the gentleman is. Is there a clerk of the works?
Not familiar with that term.
That's the overseer, like Joe's asking.
Construction manager,
Okay.
project manager, I think.
Exactly, who oversees all it? The nickname is the clerk of the works. Do they have one?
So when
No, it's a valid
EPCO
point.
will have a superintendent who will be the one in direct contact with me and Pat, and he'll really be the one who's responsible for the schedule and, keeping everything on track for safety and all the site stuff and keeping the school happy in terms of not leaving trash everywhere. They'll provide a superintendent to oversee that.
Also, I don't know if we brought it up with Pat, is there a penalty clause if they don't meet the time allotment that was given?
I'd have to go back and look at the settlement agreement again, but
All right.
they're very clear on understanding what the.
Oh, I understand
And
that.
they're willing to work weekends
Yeah.
if that's what it's gonna take to get this done. They don't really have a gauge yet on how quickly it'll go. And so after
Yeah,
the
well-
first week or so, I think they'll have a better idea.
All right, but you don't want to give an open end.
No,
we don't.
no, they know that they need to be gone, what is it, August 29th?
I think that was.
They know the
Well,
dates that.
Even if they know it, that don't say it happens, that's why I asked if it's a penalty clause. Yeah, that's
Right.
more of an incentive that, saying, oh yeah, I know, you gotta give, incentive. Also, this might seem like an irrelevant question, but I was wondering about damage to the lawn. Now, when they put the windows in, when the building was being built, there was no lawn, they just put the windows, you're just talking dirt. Now, all the bottom windows in this building, there's a lawn there, and these heavy windows, I can't picture, these guys carrying the windows, to the location where they're gonna install them. you're gonna have to use a piece of equipment to get the window
Right.
from A to B.
And they'll probably use an aerial lift to do the second floor windows.
Yeah, the second floor, but, you know, 'cause I know it'll come up now, if they run equipment over the lawns are gonna get marked up a bit, so.
Yeah, we can ask them to provide a submittal for protection of the lawn.
You could put that down, you could put down stuff to drive on, yeah,
Right, yeah, usually I think put down plywood.
yeah, if they do.
It works pretty well.
Well, yeah, if they
As long as
do.
they stay on the
You
plywood.
know, we would not want too much lawn damage, really.
Right,
That can get kind of expensive also, yeah,
right, absolutely.
okay.
So is there a process defined for any extras or out-of-scope items?
Honestly, I'm not sure. In a typical project, there is, but this project, I'm not sure how that would be addressed. I don't know if that's part of the settlement contract or,
I'll look at that.
I mean, the typical process is an unforeseen condition comes up that's not caused by the contractor. He would, bring it to our attention, we would agree on a repair solution. He would put together some pricing, submit it to me. I would review it and say, yeah, it looks reasonable, or, you're crazy, it's not gonna take 2 guys 2 days to do this. And we come to an agreeable number, present it to Pat, and then it gets approved.
And if there is any disputes or other things that have to be resolved, there is a whole process in here that we're supposed to follow around that.
So we did include in our specification that they need to inspect all of the concealed end dams in the curtain wall, which is really vital to the performance of the curtain wall, and do any repairs that are needed. And so that'll be one thing that we're checking when we're out here, the condition of those end dams and making sure they're doing the repairs if they're needed. So we try to guess at what maybe concealed conditions might arise and write that into the spec. But, as with any project, there's always things we don't anticipate that could come up. This project's pretty straightforward. It's an EPCO curtain wall, so they know their system really well. And it's not like removing brick or roofing even. You can find some unforeseen stuff. I think it's a more straightforward project.
Whose responsibility is it for evaluating the curtain wall? Is it EPCO's or is it yours?
It's EPCO's primarily, and then we'll be spot checking when we're on site doing those site visits. So on the 2 pieces of glass we removed previously, the end dams looked good. So it's not a big concern I have, but certainly, we'll look at everything that's exposed when we're out here.
Who's going to certify that this is 100% after the work is complete?
Certified, not maybe the word I would use, but, we certainly sign affidavits, maybe they're called. Typically used for structural affidavits saying, the work is complete and it's in general accordance with the drawings and specs, and we can certainly provide one of those.
So you have final signing authority or final approval?
Right, yeah.
Okay. And I don't remember reading this, I read this a while ago. What is the warranty, the new glass warranty? Do you know off your head?
I'm not sure there is a warranty.
No, that was something, if you remember, that we needed to discuss and negotiate after we had had the settlement with EPCO. We need to negotiate that separately with EPCO.
What are we planning on doing that?
We'll have to do that now that we have this all set, and it's moving forward. We'll be doing that with EPCO and or with our insurance company. We'll be starting that process.
I thought initially they said they weren't interested in any kind of warranty.
But
So
we
now
also,
we're gonna say,
we also hadn't settled yet. So the advice that we had had through this process was that we need to settle this, get that done, then go back to the table with EPCO
and/or our insurance company or another insurance company with a third-party insurance company to see if we can get some sort of a warranty. So as soon as my business manager is on board with the certain.
Can I ask a question first? So there's 4 types of glass.
Mhm.
2 types have been approved by you.
Mhm.
What's the timeline for the other 2?
So EFCO received those today. They'll be mailing them to Michael tomorrow, so he should get them Wednesday or Thursday. And him and Pat will review them for aesthetics against, the existing glass. And then they'll send them to me, and I'll review them for technical purposes. And I expect to approve them, barring any horrible thing, but if they're, similar to those 2 pieces, I expect to approve them. So that'll be early next week, probably. So it'll probably be maybe 2 weeks behind the first order.
Is all the glass solar band 60?
None of the glass is solar band 60.
So what is the glass now?
So the glass is all Viracon. So solar band 60 is the low E coating that goes on the glass, and it's a product made by PPG. Viracon makes equivalent low E coatings that are branded under Viracon, so it's Viracon coating. I believe just the 2 clear glass types get the low E coating. The other 2 ones are tinted glass with gray glass, and then the other one's the Scandal, which has the opaque coating.
And Pat, question for you. So in the money that we approved for SGH, is that in last year's budget, this year's budget?
So that is in this
The
coming
current-
year, 18-19. The testing that we needed to do on the windows that prior to this whole process is added to this year's budget, the 4,800. Everything else for this process is in the 18-19 budget.
And what, is this the
We
full
needed-
amount, the 40, the 56,000? That's in 18, 19?
Yes, for SGH.
You foresee your relationship with EFCO so far? Are you foreseeing
They've been
anything?
pretty responsive so far. The guy, at least in the office, I'm not sure if he'll be out in the field. But yeah, Ted in the office has been pretty responsive so far. It's a little bit different because they're not a contractor, so they're not used to this middle process. So we've been working with them on getting the middles we need. But yeah, so far he's been responsive and answers my phone calls. So that's a good first step. So they're working on calculations to submit for showing that the glass meets the structural loads, the wind load on it, and thermal stresses to make sure it won't break. So that was part of the extra services.
And there seems to be, are you happy with the as-built drawings? Because they really weren't as-built, they were
So we're working off the shop drawings.
shop drawings.
From
Thank
the
you.
original. We told EFCO they're responsible for field verifying all the dimensions, or at least enough that they're comfortable that the shop drawings are accurate. So I haven't heard, from them that anything isn't correct, but certainly that's something we'll look at when they arrive on site. If we don't get the required clearance around the glass, we'll send them back.
Weren't they already supposed to have been here to do that?
Yeah, that was when we met,
We
maybe in
We
March or
met
February.
on February 7th.
Yeah, so they were here then and took field measurements at that time. And we walked around and looked at all the locations where we had glass that we were replacing.
We had a while back, talked about it in our facilities committee meetings years ago. Where the gym is, the weight room, taking maybe reducing some of that glass. Any recommendations on that, or?
Well, Right now, we're just replacing,
Well, it's all
All the
bad.
glass.
That's all bad.
right, we're replacing all the glass everywhere in the high school. So as far as changing any of the glass to something else, that's not part of this project.
Dave, are you there?
And,
Do you have any questions?
no, thank you.
And I'm sorry, were you done on
Kathleen, do you have questions?
that? Are there any additional questions?
I got a question, I'm just curious here. How do they, the company that's installing these, how do they find out how many windows and what sizes we needed? Did they ever find a blueprint to this building?
So they have the original shop drawings,
Did they?
which is what the curtain wall was built off of and the glass. So
Okay.
that's what they're installing
'Cause
to.
I remember way back when they built it, the plans couldn't be found for this, that, or the other thing. And it kind of like disappeared and nobody had a good answer for it. I was wondering if they ever surfaced, you know, instead of having to go to every window and measure.
Right, yeah, so they just, in February, they just spot checked, you know,
But they
different
didn't find the
sizes
actual
to make sure
blueprint
the
from
shop drawings were correct.
But it was
They
built-
also, because EFCO provided the original glass, they have tickets for every piece of glass
They
they
did?
shipped
Okay.
out here. So I assume they're cross-referencing that.
All right, okay. What I will bring up is, it has nothing to do with you, but the board here. It would be my suggestion, we could think about it. It might behoove us to get an independent clerk of the works. Because don't get me wrong, the gentleman you got doing it, you get somebody who doesn't have a connection on either end. He's independent. All right? So it's just not nothing to do with you, it's something for us to think about. Because there are companies you can hire,
Yep,
And they'll-
absolutely, we work with them all the time.
yeah, and they'll take it on, and they'll have a man there, and he makes sure everything is done like it's supposed to be. And he has nothing to gain, because he's not with either party. He's independent. It's something for us to think about, because you can hire people to do that if we want to put our mind at ease. Okay, that's all, I just wanted to bring it up now, since we're talking windows. That's it.
One other question. Are we going to, through Pat, see a timeline of, you know, from start to finish, when product, you know, a scope
Yes.
of work, when it's gonna start coming on site, and, okay, if this, you know, if we slip on our schedule, you know, what's the contingency plan, you know, and all this stuff, so, I mean, that's where we contracted with you to get that, right? You will provide that for
Well,
us?
EFCO needs to provide that, but yes, I'm putting pressure on EFCO to put together that schedule and lay out, okay, we're gonna start here with this portion of the building and work our way around and provide, you know, some idea of where they're gonna be each week working. And then that's the sort of thing we'll review every week in a meeting, and they'll say, oh, we had 2 rain days today, so, you know, it flipped here, or we're moving faster. And so we'll amend it every week based on reality, but they will put together a schedule.
And I will share those in weekly updates with the board.
And like I said, they're willing to work weekends. They're sending guys here from Missouri to live all summer. And so it's not like they have plans on the weekends necessarily. Maybe go to the beach, but come August, I would think they'll probably be working some weekends.
Yeah, probably. I have a question. So is that must be subcontracting, or are they doing?
They're self-performing, so they have installers,
They have their own
trained,
installers?
right, that mostly come and do small little replacement jobs, nothing this big typically. But yeah, they have their own installers who are trained who they'll send here for the summer.
And what about the demolition, same? Or
Right.
The same crew, or
Yep.
same group? Okay.
Yeah, and for the most part, it'll all occur in one day. So, you know, they have one window, they'll take off all the stops, they'll take out the old glass, they'll put in the new glass and put the stops back. so that they don't have to, you know, put in plywood and then come back, take out the plywood and touch it multiple times. It'll all happen in one day.
Thank you.
Mhm. Anything else?
One last, I just, what's your experience on projects with windows? Personally?
Me personally, yeah, I've done curtain wall design projects at UMass and UConn, which included new curtain wall and new glass. That's most of my experience.
So it's not your first time?
Not my first,
Okay.
certainly not.
Thank you.
Is that it? Everyone? Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, is there anything you want to add? Okay.
Thanks so much.
Yeah,
Katie.
thank you. Yeah, no problem.
So next we have our student representative reports. And we moved them up on the agenda and we'll decide whether we move them ahead of the superintendent or not. So it was wrong. Sorry. Okay, so, Taylor, do you want to begin?
Yeah, in 2 or 3 weeks, AP exams are going to be starting, so, some students are going to be taking those.
Yeah.
So I wish them good luck. And also, since the last meeting, I think all the spring sports have officially started: lacrosse, track and field, softball and baseball. They've all started, golf. They've all started and had games and meets, so that's good as well.
Great, thank you.
Today was also the first day back from spring break, and there were 2 trips that our school hosted. The Spain trip, which students from the Spanish program stayed with host families in Spain for about a week and a half, I believe, and also the music department's Disney trip, which Dr. Law alluded to earlier. Tomorrow is also the SAT exam for all juniors. And in addition to AP testing coming up, as Taylor talked about, there's also several honors award ceremonies, breakfast for students who have had high honors or honors for 3 quarters, and also a night award ceremony with more individualized awards, and then also the prom.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, old business. So we have discussion and possible action regarding the minutes of April 9th, April 2nd, special meeting, March 19th. Is there a motion to accept all of them, or is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. Any discussion? Do we want to, okay, I guess I'll call the vote then. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, Mr. O'Connor. So then we have new business, review expenditure and revenue reports.
I will do my best.
Okay.
They are in section 8(1)A is what I will start with in the packet. Jane came in the week before break with Eva to pull this report together. So it was posted on the 13th, Friday the 13th, right before break. And I'll start with looking at the letter, Jane's cover letter to the memo, her memo, and taking a look at our net current position, which right now is at a negative 106,761. That is an increase in our deficit as a district, mainly because if you take a look at the paragraph right below where it says net projected position. The excess cost funds, we called the state. We did get a verbal from them as to what our actual amount is going to be for our May 1st distribution. It was about $35,000 less than we had anticipated. Therefore, when you look at, if you flip over the memo and you look at the revenue and expenditure report that you regularly get every month, and if you look at where the excess cost is in the revenue area, you will see that under anticipated additional, which is on the far right-hand side, that we're anticipating an additional $455,769, which under the projected balance is $35,000 less than we had anticipated. When we spoke with the state, there were two things that impacted that number. One was we had two students where their daily tuition amounts that the state allows us to be able to submit for were higher than what the state allows, so the state automatically will only give us what their threshold is for their daily amount. So those two got adjusted, as well as the fact that the state also, just in general, had less money than what was submitted by all of the districts. So as we talked about before, they did prorate overall what all of the districts are getting, which also reduced the amount that we were going to be getting as a district. So those were the two impacts to the difference in what we had anticipated versus what we were getting overall from the state in our two distributions. Questions?
I do, but we can go around. Anybody with questions?
I'm okay. Any other anticipated outcomes?
So the other statement on the front in that same paragraph is that there's a placeholder of $52,269,000 for special education tuition and transportation expenses that we are anticipating with students that may be changing placement or going out at this point. We have some anticipated expenses coming, but since we haven't actually encumbered that money yet and or invoiced for it yet, those are just being put as a placeholder based on the approximations of what we think might happen with a couple of students right now.
And that's not in here.
What you will see is you will see that in your differences at the bottom under expenses, because those are unanticipated expenses. So they're being calculated in the purchased services, the 300 to 500, and in your tuition areas, your tuition public and state, those two line items under the expenditure part of the budget statement down below, those numbers have been included in those areas.
I know we had some expulsion hearings. Are we going to have to, through special ed, that we might be paying for any additional educational supports for students who may
Not all of the students being expelled necessarily have special education issues.
Right.
So they may or may not, but we may also have tutoring expenses
That's
for
what I
other
mean.
things like that.
Thank you for clarifying. That did not mean that they,
Right.
just that the monies might be
Yes.
taken under. And that's not encumbered.
If we've had any expulsions that have been dealt with already and settled, that is accounted for in here. If we have ones that are upcoming, that has not.
Mr. O'Connor? Mr. Gustanian?
No question.
Can you clarify, so what, did you say students have their daily rate is
Higher than what the state has as their allowable amount. that
Are they at different placements?
I'm not sure if they're at the same placement or a different one, but I have to go back and check.
Only, and you know, obviously we want students' needs to be met and to be giving a free appropriate public education, but it just would be, I think, interesting to explore why these two, if they are the same placement, and if there is a comparable program or, you know, and I understand that can be disruptive. So I'm not saying to move kids just because of money, but just, it's unfortunate that they exceed the allotment.
I can check on that.
Thank you. Ms. Maria.
Can you just remind me, I'm sure we've talked about this 16 times, can you please remind me how we're going to get 117,603 at the end of the year? Can you remind me like how we're doing that?
What number are you talking about? I'm sorry.
What are anticipated, or I'm thinking that this is our projected loss?
This is right now our, if, like, for example, if the school year stopped right now and we stopped everything where we're at,
Yeah.
we have a deficit of 106,761.
Okay, all right.
However, going back to the memo
Yeah.
on the front,
Right.
you can see there's the list of all the unanticipated expenses.
Right.
That's down at the bottom here. The sentence right below that, we currently have an overall budget in the unallocated reserve of 127,631. If you remember at the start of this year, rather than making transfers to specific little line items, we are if there's any monies that we have a surplus of or extra, we're putting it in the unallocated, either personnel or program. So right now, in our unallocated, we have a plus of 127. That doesn't mean that it will still be there because there's other transfers that are transferring in and out of there. But that's a good sign that there's money there. So the other part of what we're looking at is we do projections every single month, and in particular when you're looking at your expenditures down here. We're projecting what is left in the different line items, which is the next part of this report. We're anticipating and looking at that. The business manager looks at each one of those and decides what's been encumbered, what hasn't been, what are outstanding POs, and makes a judgment as to what we think is going to actually be spent or used by the end of the year, and what we can say, you know, we don't think so, it hasn't been used so far. So for example, let's say that there's $30,000 in textbooks still. It's May, almost. We're not going to necessarily be spending $30,000 on textbooks in May. So we would go back to the departments, we'd go back to the building principal, say, what are you really going to use or not? And we anticipate what we really think is going to be used with that money. And we use that to make these judgments around expenses. As the year closes out, and so this is again as of the end of March.
Right.
So as the end of April comes, we're going to get a better handle again on some of those open numbers. And what are we really needing in spending, and what are we not? We'll start to close more of those out. Same thing will happen in May and in June. So we are hoping that through being, again, fiscally conservative, really working with departments, working with building principals, watching our spending, that we'll be able to hopefully get very close to being able to get this down closer to zero. We also then have the fund balance, which we can talk about again at another meeting, and what's left in that fund balance and how that could be used as well.
It seemed like there's a big difference between the number of students that were reported outpace for the December 1st report versus the March 1st.
What numbers are you looking at?
I'm looking at the excess costs. The first amount you got back was 117, and then the anticipated next one is 455. So I was wondering if there was just a big influx of students that, no?
No. What happened was at the first pull of the data for the December 1st, all of our data didn't pull. So some of our students got pulled, but not all of them. So the state, based on what they did get, gave us our first amount in that one. We did have a complete pull for the second one on March 1st, and so they then got all of the information and were able to adjust from there.
sorry, Mr. Tremont.
No, I have no question.
Okay.
So Pat, this is March, so what was February's? Do you have it? If you don't, no?
I can get it.
So what was the deficit in February?
February was about $60,000, it was in the 60s. 65, 67, somewhere in there.
So the 35 and 65 don't add up to 117, so tell me how I get to 117. Close, give me your best shot at it. I mean, I know I'm putting you on the
How do you
spot.
get 117?
How do we get to 117 if we were at 65, 66 last week? I got your 35,000 number, so that's,
Mhm.
you know,
Right, so if you do the 35 plus like the 65, you're at about 100, right? So you're still looking for about $6,000?
17,
It's 106.
It's 106.
the 106,
Mm-hmm.
okay. And is that the 6,000 out of rentals? Is that?
Nope, so that is placeholder, some of it is placeholder for the special education tuition and transportation. Because again, nothing is static in here. We also probably closed some other POs and we're able to offset some of other line items when you take a look at all the line item reports. So some of the expenses, so for example, let's say it was at 65 last month. We just added the 35, so you're at your 100, right? So you're looking for $6,000, but I'm also saying that I put $52,000 in a placeholder for special education students. So why isn't it $152,000? That's because other things were able to close. We were able to take the encumbrances or monies that were set aside and realize some savings there as well. So it all fluxes back and forth on any given report and month as to what we're able to close, what we're able to realize in savings, what we are putting and thinking we still have to anticipate expenses for. So primarily, that's what I was talking about on this one. The primary issues are a change in our excess costs, the placeholder for special education students. But I don't have a list of all of the things that we were able to close or adjust as far as expenses go that helped us to keep this number as in check as it could be at $106,000 rather than $150,000.
And do we have any projection, if you have a placeholder now, is there a possibility that we could still have more placeholders?
I'm hoping not. I'm thinking that I have regular meetings with my special education director. We talk about any changes or issues that are happening with any of our students. We certainly are continuing to take a look at their programming needs as appropriate and making adjustments that way. If something has to change or a bigger change comes, I'm notified of it right away, and then we talk with the business manager and we plan for that. But there's always unanticipated things that can happen as a student.
I would hope that we're going to have this, I've asked it for it to be on the finance.
Yep.
This fund balance thing has to get cleared up. And I mean, we don't have $127,000 in fund balance.
No, we don't.
So we need to get, everybody on the board needs to understand what, and I'm, maybe it is another meeting, but we need to get a plan. I'd like to see a plan of how we're getting out of this deficit. I mean, I think we're all done with books right now. We should not be looking and thinking we're going to get any savings from books in May 1st here. So we got to find out a way you need to develop a plan for the next meeting to tell us how we're going to get out of this.
I think we have a month-by-month plan process. And when I talk about what do we do, month by month by month, we take a look at every single balance that is left in an account. And we say, okay, you know what, we're making a change here, rather than having only, there's $3,000 encumbered, but you know what, we're closing it out, it's done, we're putting $3,000. That is the plan.
But the plan that I've always been talking about, your plan is taking money from something else that we budgeted for to get a bigger number down, correct?
We're working within our budget, yes, as anybody would when they have their budget. You have to pick and choose from different areas. Absolutely.
this is the same debate that discussion we've been having, and I'm getting a little fed up with it because it's the same conversation that we identified our hole, and I keep talking about this, but we're just taking the money from the general fund, the general education piece, and stripping it and putting it over to this other piece, and we're still in a deficit. So my plan, I want to see a plan that if we haven't gotten to special education yet, but if that number is $500,000, we need to be having a conversation with the towns that we're short $500,000, and that's why I'm not hearing that. Our plan is to strip the budget down and pay for it and work within the budget as you articulated, but that is not how you should be operating a budget. A budget is to, if I say I'm going to have, Mr. Spinelli needs $50,000 for textbooks, he should be getting $50,000 for textbooks. And we should not be stripping it, and we continue to do that. And I don't see the plan we did this last year, we did it the year before, and we're doing it again this year. So what is the plan that we're going to, are we going back to the towns to tell them we need to fund this? Or are we going to continue to, you're going to try and find $106,000 in the budget right now?
Well, again, we have $127,000.
No, we do not have $127,000 in the surplus. We do not.
No, we do have $127,000 in our unallocated budget money. Our budget from this year, the unallocated fund that we have, I'm not talking fund balance, I'm not talking audit. I'm talking, we have $127,000 in transfers that have been made to the unallocated either program or personnel, because we've had personnel that left. We hired somebody who cost us less. We now have, we had budgeted $80,000 for this person's salary, now we're down to $60,000, so we put the $20,000 in unallocated personnel. We had a project that we were working on for facilities. We budgeted $10,000 for it. It came in at $8,000. We have $2,000 program-wise that's now sitting in unallocated program. So that we've said, working within our budget, if what we budgeted changes for some reason, and that money is now freed up, that we're putting it in this unallocated. That was something we did at the beginning of the year in the finance subcommittee meeting. That way it then allows us to know how much we have freed up. And then when we do have to transfer for something else, because actually now we had a teacher who left that was a $60,000 salary, but we could only hire an $80,000 salary, and we can transfer the $20,000 out of the unallocated personnel into the new salary line item. So we do have money that is there. We also do have the fund balance, which I know you've talked about, which is separate. We have to talk about that as well. We also have been very clear this year in working with the building principals and talking with department coordinators. If you need something for education in your classroom and you budgeted for it, you have it. There's not been a no. If you remember several months ago, you asked me to ask the department coordinators what's been the impact on the budget freeze. And I gave you word for word. I just took their words that they sent me, I sent it to you. And there was a misunderstanding in one department around how we could purchase things or not. That has been cleared up. They've purchased what they've needed. So we haven't taken out of the classroom what students or teachers need for learning in the classroom. We maybe haven't done some of the innovative things that we would have liked to try to do. We've tried to make sure that as we're looking at some of the, in particular within the maintenance or within other supplies within areas, that we don't need to buy it right now, we haven't been buying it. So that's been our plan for this year. Part of resolving the plan moving forward is that we've also budgeted and planned differently for next year, so that we're hoping that this isn't a problem for next year. So I do think we've got several ways that we're trying to look at resolving this year. I can't tell you how close this number is going to be to zero until we really get to the May, June timeframe where we're really looking at what can we make some final closeouts on. I think it will improve if we don't have any other big surprises with anything. The number will improve. I hear your frustration, I understand that, but I do think we've been trying to be very responsible in how we've responded to the budget issues this year. And continuing to make sure that we've got learning happening appropriately in the classroom for our students.
I think next year will be a whole different story. I would like to not see this happen again next year where we're robbing Peter to pay Paul. I hear what you're saying, and there's changes in place. This year it is what it is. We have a negative balance. We're going to go back to the balance. There's just, we can't, pick money off of trees, but we can't keep putting freezes on, stopping what the community has voted on to pay for anything, whether it's regular education, special education. I don't, it's just not the right thing to do.
Agreed. And we will certainly have to monitor it closely. As we know, we talked about school budgets are volatile. All it takes is a few student issues or a few major building issues to put us totally out of whack in what we think we were able to project for. So certainly, I think, Joe, going back to your point about going back to the towns, and Sue, your point, the board absolutely needs to make decisions around, and we've even talked about much earlier in the year, that by the time May comes around, that will be the time frame where we'll have to go back and decide what does the board want to do, because you do have options. And we haven't revisited those options. We talked about them several times before around you could bond up to $500,000, you can go back to the towns for money, you can roll the deficit forward into the next year. There are options that you have. But we were going to kind of wait until about the May time frame so we had a better idea of where we are, and then be able to make decisions from there.
Well, I just hope that the board has an opportunity to hear this again, because it's very frustrating to sit here and see it where, I get it. I get the numbers, but what we have to do is fix the problem, and we talk about it, we talking about it for 6 months. Let's sit down and lock us in a room and come up with a plan, the whole board, and say how we're going to address this. And I don't want to address it in June. I want to address it now or next month. I don't want to address it in June. But we can all have a discussion on it. What is the best plan to go forward? And I hope that we're going to, the budget is behind us. Now let's just focus on this problem and the other problem that with the cash fund balance, that we get these things out in the open quicker, sooner than later.
Well, I can certainly put the 17-18 budget on the next month's agenda.
It depends on our superintendent. What you're asking for is never going to happen. Unless you go to the town and ask for money. And that's not going to fly. And I'm not making a joke of this, but the state has been doing this for years. They never balance their budget. All right? So we're no damn different than them. And I don't see people storming the Capitol saying, you guys better come up with a plan and straighten out your deficit, which is in the millions compared to what we have. It's never going to happen, John. I understand where you're coming from. You'd have to go to the town. We can't really come up with a plan, neither can our superintendent. You'd have to go to the town and get the money, and I don't see that flying.
But we should, Carol had her hand up first, so go ahead.
Well, I agree that going back to the towns really won't be reasonable. I mean, we are all in the same boat as far as the state not giving the towns or the schools what we anticipated or planned for. And it's a unique situation. And also I'd like to point out that we came up after the audit with
About $65,000.
$65,000 after all was said and done. So actually, if we'd gone back to the town and asked them for money, and the miracle happened, they actually gave it to us, we have to give it back anyway. And I have a feeling that some people will feel like the $65,000 should go back as well. So, I think it's just, I think it'd be a waste of our time to get together and say this is the plan, this is the way it's going to work, because it's not going to work that way. That's my opinion.
Yeah, why not, if anybody has anything, we can go around. Do you have anything to add to that? I know Mr. O'Connor does. Go ahead.
No.
Sorry. Ms. Devaney. Sorry.
I agree with Tom, but if we,
Okay,
if we
so
can't,
Mr. O'Connor,
we
then
should not be
Mr.
running our district like the state. I would agree with you, Tom. If we follow that plan, it's a bad plan. So we have to take control of our own destiny and say, this is not how we're going to do this. Now, whether, again, I'm only asking for a discussion. It's not like we have to have a strategic plan, but let's start having some dialogue on how we're going to fix this problem. And we've been talking about it. That's my point. We're talking and nothing is getting done. We're not sitting down together as a collective board and trying to figure out how we're going to dissect this and get it on the right track. That's all I'm asking to do. But if we continue to let them run our district like the state is, forget it. We're not going to go, we should not be doing that. But we have enough intelligent people on this board, I think, that we can sit down and figure out a plan with Dr. Law how we go forward. So we aren't going to get, having these situations for the last 3 years of $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 deficits and stealing it, like Sue said, or robbing Peter to pay Paul from the general education piece of it and moving it over to here to cover internal expenses. I can see that up to a certain dollar number, maybe $100,000, which is what we have here, unanticipated cost. It's actually a little higher, it's 267. I can see that, but not the number we've been generating for the last 4 years, $700,000. That has to stop, and we have to figure out whether it goes back to the towns, and I know a lot of towns don't want to hear that, but we as the taxpayers, and I'm a taxpayer, I voted on the budget, and I voted for that money to go to my education piece of it. I also voted on my town budget, which is for CIP and for my taxes. I voted either yes or no. But when it comes to voting for my taxes in the school, I voted for my money, my tax dollars to go to what the superintendent at the time proposed it was going to go to, not something else.
I want to share something, because it is pertinent to this, then Ms. DiMatteo, then Mr. Gostanian. And we never, I think, got it further, but Dr. Law and I, about a month ago, spoke about possibly having a meeting with the board, and we said, I think there was an outside person or something, but for the very thing that you stated, so you can, have further conversation about that, but I just wanted to interject that. Ms. DiMatteo.
I guess my perspective is, I've been on the board about 6 years, maybe 7 years now, and the thing that's different, that's going to make next year different, is that we have a different superintendent who's presented a budget very differently, who is organized it very differently. We have a situation right now where we're looking at the same thing we've always looked at, because we're still on the same, we passed a budget last year with a different administrator. And so when we're talking about things haven't changed, we're still working on the documents from the last administration. So when I guess I'm cautious when thinking about coming up with a plan to change how we're doing business. We haven't seen a budget that's been managed, that's been developed and managed by the current superintendent. And so I think that it's reasonable to expect that we won't be, to ask and expect that we won't be robbing Peter to pay Paul, because I think that the budget's been developed very differently. And so our frustration in looking at this same situation that we've been looking at, for me, for close to 7 years, is going to end. And I think that that's just a perspective that we have to kind of keep in mind, is like, okay, let's recognize that the time has come to an end. Not to say that we're not going to be, if a project ends early, that we're going to pull that $5,000 off and put it into an unallocated reserve for program. And I think that that's a reasonable way to handle it. If we hire a teacher at a less amount of money and that saves $20,000, we pull that out and put it in personnel. Like, so that money is available, but that we aren't taking from the science department because we have to cover cement out on the walkways, or whatever it is. I think that, and I'm anticipating and expecting that the budget's going to be managed very differently for this coming year, once it's voted on and we've accepted it, and so I think that we have to keep that in mind when we're voicing our concerns about how things are going to be moving forward.
Okay, Mr. Gustanian, thank you.
Yeah, hi. I agree with a lot of what Carol said and some of what Amy said. That, you know, this is a different world. We're working on a different budget. In terms of special ed, things are being calculated a little differently. We have a lot more information and it's better organized. But, you know, when Joe said that, you know, he voted to, you know, give the taxes to the school, the town voted for a dollar amount, and we have to work within that dollar amount. The town didn't vote to give us like an unlimited supply of money. The other thing is that, you know, settling this in September is not the time to settle it because we don't know what our costs are. You know, everybody says we're so surprised about, you know, being so far over budget and doing something wrong. We got 20 new students that we didn't know about. Those 20 students have the average of $40,000 to educate. Our place is about $800,000. It's not a big surprise. There's nothing you can do about a whole bunch of people coming into the school system that you didn't know about. So, I mean, I think working within your budget is a proper thing to do. I mean, there are places we can cut back. There are savings that we can, you know, accrue from, you know, not needing things or changing plans. But, I mean, it's not an open checkbook. Remember what happened last year when we tried to have a higher budget and the town said no twice. So, I mean, I don't think we should take away from needed functions. But by the same token, you know, we can tighten our belts where we need to.
Okay, so I guess we all have different views on things, and I think that my opinion is still, yes, the town cares about money, but I think there are many people who do not know that money is going from general education to other places, as some of the board members said. So I'm not certain that we can conclusively state that the town wouldn't say, fine, we'll give more funding. I mean, other people can say that, but we don't know until we would go through that process. So I think we just can all agree to disagree, but none of us know for certain. The other thing before we go on to Stephanie is just that what Dr. Law and I spoke about wasn't necessarily about any people or how people manage the budget. It was just under continuous improvement, and that we could meet and invite the entire board and be really trying to answer any questions people had. I think we were looking at it like a little casual, like a work meeting, kind of. You know, so that's something we could consider. And I would like that, and why we said the entire board is because I think all of us want to understand this budget better, because there are many things that we want to do. And I don't think I can speak for myself. I'm not saying that there's anything we shouldn't be doing, but there's a lot that I wish we were doing that we currently are not. And a lot of that is, you know, has been stated tonight as science or math or whatever people said, or I'll say science and math in any case. So, you know, I think the more discussion we can have about the budget, the better. It's a significant amount of money. People clearly feel strongly, not just at the board level, but in the communities. And I think it's an opportunity for us to educate the community. This is a nice start, but that continuous dialogue, I think, serves to educate. Stephanie?
And haven't the departments been asked to cut back on their budgets, the supplies and textbooks and things that they needed for this next year's budget?
Very much.
For the 18-19 or the current year's budget, 17-18?
I guess you were talking about 17, 18.
Because of this year's budget.
So were departments asked to decrease for this year?
For this year?
Because I know for next year they have, right?
No, if department gave, so the building principals brought me what the department coordinators gave them as far as what their needs were. Adjustments that were made for things like if when we were reducing teachers and reducing numbers of sections of things, then we would reduce supplies for classes because we're not going to run as many classes. So supplies were reduced that way. I asked for supplies to be justified and clarified more. If we had to have conversations, I'd go through the building principal and ask her, can you please explain to me again why we need this many of this or this many of that? So we did a lot of questioning. There might have been some reductions in places where appropriate, but it was certainly through conversation. But no, the message to department coordinators or the building principals was not cut your supplies or cut your needs.
Okay, I'm concerned that if they've already cut some things, or if we keep reducing and reducing to like say rob Peter to pay Paul, then I'm afraid that it'll really impact student learning if we just keep cutting back and cutting back on needs.
And again, this year, the department coordinators, the building principals were told, if you budgeted for it and you need it to teach, order it, get it, use it, have it. So that has been clearly what the expectation is. There are budget line items that have not been touched. I have at the last couple of FACT meetings, which are the department coordinator meetings, they've been given here are all of your open POs, here are all of your line items. Accounting needs you to put next to them. Leave open, close, don't need any more, whatever. So we're getting direct feedback from them. Some departments maybe thought that they needed $3,000 for a technology piece that they don't need, and they're not going to buy it, so they're saying close it. But we're getting that input from them. We are not making decisions without their voice right now being part of that process. Because we don't know what they need. And when you still see several $1,000s or several $100s in a line item, we have to ask them, are you going to use this or not? And that's how we do our budget projections. And that's how we get that information to them.
Mr. Tremont?
Well, no, I defend Pat again. The budget's a living thing. Like you just, it changes constantly. And I gotta give her credit, she keeps her thumb to it. Just because it's budgeted, they don't spend the money. I remember, this is a little short story, when I was with Cummins, the Navy would come up at the end of the year, the U.S. Navy, and they had X amount of money to spend because it was in the budget, and they spent it. They didn't say, let's give it back, because their thing was, if we give it back, we won't get it next year. And they would buy stuff they're never going to use. But our money, it was our tax money, they spent it because it was in the budget. Now, she doesn't let that happen, okay? So I give her credit on that. I've seen it happen, all right? Of course, that's the government, and I understand that. That's how they operate. They were afraid they wouldn't get it next year. So they spent it on stuff they were never going to use. But anyway, it's a living thing. You can't, it's not chiseled in stone, a budget like this. It's not chiseled in stone. That's all I'll say.
Judy?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I agree. I think it's in the grammar to label it robbing somebody, like robbing Peter to pay Paul. Or you could say the next year, if we have a bunch of students who graduate who were in a program that was expensive, then are we robbing Paul to pay Peter? It can work both ways. If we have a catastrophe and the roof starts leaking and it collapses in the auditorium, who are we robbing that year? It's a pendulum and it continues to swing, and I'm glad to know that our administration is remaining flexible and working within that. And that's, I think, the best they can do. And I appreciate that.
Well,
And they work within the limitations of the budget, period. And we all do that in our personal lives and our professional lives. That's the way seen things work over the years in business and in personal finances as well. And you never can anticipate everything. You don't have a crystal ball. And you have to work with it, just like these windows that we, even though we got a good settlement, we're still putting out money for that too. So who's robbing Peter to pay for the windows, whatever.
So once again, I think it's reasonable that people agree to disagree because there are some, myself included, who believe that it's been that the covering the shortfalls of one department has come out of general education year after year after year, so that it's a pattern and so that it actually is, I don't know what I would say, an untruthful budget or an unfair characterization or something. I mean, I don't want to make this personal or about anything that's happened in the past, but I didn't use that robbing Peter to pay Paul. I personally think it's accurate, so I think reasonable people can agree to disagree. Yes.
Just to, again, to clarify, this is not Pat's budget.
Right.
This is the previous administration's budget. I'm not suggesting, I've tried to work with Pat, and I know what she's trying to do here. We understand that. At the end of the day, all I'm asking for is, what is our plan?
Right.
It's not about, we have 106,000, if you add the 52, it's 150 something, $160,000. All I'm asking for is, what is the plan? If we end on June 30th in a $160,000 deficit, what is your plan?
Why is it 150,000?
Because she has got 106 and 152 that she hasn't.
No, the 52's in there. It's in the expenses.
It's in the 106?
Yeah.
Okay, well, if it's 106, it could go up, it could go down, whatever. Pick a number, whatever it is.
Yeah.
All I'm asking or suggesting to this board is, what is your plan? That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's not Pat's fault. It's just need to get a plan.
Yeah.
So would you
And
like that on the agenda for May?
Yes, but I would just like to ask before the next person goes, that we, and I think we are, but that we stay away from people and that we just talk about year to year the process and that we don't comment on individuals.
Okay, a second question. Is it possible, as you're going through the process of closing out some of those lines, that you week to week just say, hey, this was closed out, this is how much we have now? So, as the departments are looking at that, can you meet with them, say, I want to know what you closed out, and giving them a timeline to close out? I mean, unless it's something that they absolutely need, which by this time, hopefully there isn't something you really desperately need, but like Carol brought up, things happen. But as they close things out, let us know how much money has been brought back that can be looked at for this 106, because things do happen. And I agree with your, how you gave the example of, you budgeted 80, you got somebody for 60, you have 20 now. So maybe we can see how that comes back in, and maybe it wasn't a robbing anybody. It was just money that was unused, and then this way we might be able to feel a little better about some of that just coming back to the budget, not, it wasn't taken from anywhere, it just was unused fund.
And so I can try to give you a better picture of what's been put into the unallocated, because that is where that money is holding. Every month when you get the revenue and expense report, the information that we've gotten back about what is closing out or what people don't need, or they're saying that they're not going to use it, is embedded in here. I can try to give you a better clarifier as to what some of those numbers are or where they're coming from.
Yeah, I think it helps us too when we look forward next year at the budget that, we would like to be approved at the 1.76, because that right now is that's a small amount of money that we're looking at to begin with. So I don't want to, I want to be sure that the public hears that the money is being spent the way they're voting on it. And we need to be able to send that message. So I want to, as we're learning together about how we're going to be able to communicate the budget next year, it might be a good idea for, you know, even with knowing how a budget operates, sometimes when it's embedded, you don't know what you're looking for. So we need to be a little bit more clear about that. And maybe even through the finance committee, we could come up with, you know, Joe's idea of having a planner and have some ways that we can maybe look at that better next year, so we don't end up this way. Or at least if we do end up in a deficit, we know how we got there,
Right.
you know.
And I think that that is a great idea, and we might be able to, also in your 8.1 packet, when we take a look at the object line items month by month, maybe try to find a way, because you do get these every month, so you can actually look and see what is reducing or changing in each one month by month. But maybe on this highlighting something, so that again, it's not another report, because we tried to kind of split those back this year, but maybe using the current report, we have to highlight on here, here are ones that have changed because this is the feedback we've gotten.
Or at this point, what is closed and what is the amount that's left over?
Well, if it's closed, it's and those are
Like
how
over here, it might not be 100%.
That gets you a lot into the weeds of, you know, for example, they decided that they didn't need, you know, they only needed 10 paperbacks and not 12. And
So whether it's textbooks or instructional supplies, those are closed.
Right.
So if they didn't need them, then you know in instructional supplies, you know that everybody's done spending, you know, we can use what we have for the rest of the year, that is closed and, you know.
So I will find a way with, hopefully within the reports we have, to be able to give more clarity to the board about that, so you can see that moving forward. Thank you for that idea.
Okay, anything else before we move on? Anybody? Okay, so,
Do you want me to go through any other parts of the statements? Because there's the chart wells, the student activities.
what do you think you should highlight? What should we be aware of?
Honestly, the biggest things to be aware of were in the report that we just talked about.
Right.
In particular, the excess costs, because that's where our budget is. The 8.1B, the student activities, really is not changing. The only issue we had in there, and it's again on the memo for that, was the video production club is in a deficit right now, but it's just because of the change in the way that their travel plans had to happen because of the plane and last issue and all of that weather. But they will be getting refunds from that, so that's just something to be aware of, but nothing to be concerned about. On the chart wells, it's just your general monthly sales report and invoice report that continues to look very steady from the year as far as that goes. Sales in March, again, were a little low at $50,000, but still greater than the invoices from chart wells.
Okay, yes.
Just the one you're not highlighted is an 8.1A, which is the special education report.
Oh, I'm
So,
sorry, I forgot about that in
You know,
there.
that really is the big number, so,
What page is that on, Joe?
So it's on page 15 on the first packet.
Oh,
So pages 15, 16, and 17. We still, Joe, the money that is in the projected sheet for excess costs that you saw, the 455 today that we talked about, we haven't received that yet from the state. We just know we're projecting that it's coming. So until we actually get that money, we can't offset the places in the special education budget that it is supposed to offset, which is why you're still seeing a deficit of the $536,000. Of that deficit, 455 will be offset from what we're going to get from excess costs as soon as it comes. So once we have that, you'll see that this number will change.
and is that in addition, so,
That's the revenue, so it's, that's not. it's-
Right, so you'd
it's
be-
money in.
we're looking at, a deficit of 80,487. And is that factored into the 106?
So The 106 right now is with the anticipated $455,000. So yes, on this sheet, on our anticipated revenue and expense report, our projection, this is what we're projecting, it is included there. The special education line item report, though, that's here, doesn't show that yet because this is real time. So this is your projection, what we think is going to happen or what we're anticipating happening. This is real time where we are with things. So the two are talking about the same numbers, but they're not necessarily going to show the same information at the same time because one is real time and one is projecting. So the 106 does include us receiving the $455,000 from the state. Is there anything else that you want to go around that?
I don't. Does anybody else? Okay. So let's move on, please, then to personnel actions. Do you want to?
The letters are all in your packet for the different resignations or leaves of absence that we have received at this point.
So is there a motion to accept Byers' resignation, great leave of absence, Pickney resignation, Tversky resignation, how is that said? Resignation. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed signify by raising their hand. Okay. Dave, how did you vote?
Aye.
Okay, any abstentions? Did I? I'm sorry, we had a death in our family, I told Amy, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, we're just voting to accept the resignation.
Is there, no, but we can have a discussion, I apologize, we
No,
cannot.
that's fine, that's fine.
I just have one question on the computer science. I mean, are we, and maybe I asked this question before, what is our plan with those classes? Who's picking up the load on that teacher?
What, I'm sorry, Joe. Not part of this.
No?
No.
I thought it was,
No, these are resignations.
right, but isn't one of the resignations, these are not RIFs, they're just resignations. I got you. My apologies.
Okay, any further discussion? Should we vote since I skipped that? Probably. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, thank you, Dave. All those opposed? Okay. One. Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Okay, so we are on second reading of policy. Is there anybody here from policy who would like to lead us through that?
There's a lead, and these came through the last time they were back, these scribbled
Right,
through the
right,
second
I
reading,
recall
and
that.
I did not get any feedback from anybody about them.
And we did not have a policy meeting because we didn't have quorum, so we didn't really review them.
Okay.
Oh, the re-review ones are still back in committee to be re-reviewed. These are ones that we're allowed to move forward.
Okay, so then should we have a motion to approve a second and then discussion? Is there a motion to approve second reading policies 4212, 4217.2, 5120, and 9610? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I do have,
Go ahead.
Sorry.
I do have one thing on personnel 4212. In parentheses, on the second paragraph, at the end, it says, should this sentence be removed, question mark. So if we're approving this, we have to prove it with or without that, or without that.
Yes.
You know, so that needs to be crossed out.
Yes.
The last entry on the second paragraph. So cross that out. That's all I have.
Anything else?
I just have a question.
Yes.
For personnel 4217.2, that's the unused sick days, is that only for certified staff?
Non-represented employees. So it is for your non-represented employees, so it's not your certified staff.
Okay, should call to vote then. All those, did we already make a motion? I apologize.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so let's vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. That brings us to 8.4, action regarding healthy food option.
So, Judy, in your packet on 8.4, I need a motion for the board to vote yes if they want to for healthy food option 1. If the board does vote yes for healthy food option 1, they must then vote yes for healthy option 2.
And we are currently, how are we currently?
We currently do both of these, and actually, at the very start of this year, we missed the deadline, and this is the board signed off of those. Actually,
Okay.
in October, so we just need to go back and we need to do this now for moving forward for next year. Is approving option 1 and 2.
So do you advise we continue? Is
I
there any
do.
drawback? Okay. Okay, is there a motion for healthy food option 1 and then 2, exempt healthy food option and exemption for food items? It says, okay. And it says under, kind of before the number 2 sentences above number 1, if option 1 is a yes vote, they must have vote for option 2. So Ms. DiMatteo made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Do you need me to say the motion? Do you want me to say the motion? Okay.
I do have a comment.
Mm-hmm.
On second two, this is just typos. In the second paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4th line down, after number 2, it says, he sale. It should be, I think, the sale, or PhD, shouldn't that be? And then the next line, an event is an occurrence, I think it should be an occurrence. Typos, that's all.
Discussion?
Is anything changed? Dr. Laura is discussing.
Yeah, I think it needs to change.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, signify by saying no. Okay, Mr. Tremont is no. Mr. Costadian, how did you vote? Aye. Aye, okay. Any abstentions? All right, so now we are
For
on,
both option 1 and 2.
well, we
Those are two
combined.
different motions
Oh,
on the agenda.
we thought we combined them. Is that okay, Ms. DiMatteo, combine them? Do you want us to do that separately? We can. It's not a big deal.
I think it would be better off,
All right.
because we had a
Can
problem
you
last
just-
time to do
Yeah.
one and then the other.
That's a motion.
Right.
You want to just,
Okay, so
or whatever.
So I'm making a motion to vote yes to
Exemption for food items too.
for both healthy food options and number 2, exemption of food items.
Number 2, okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Tremont, okay. Abstention.
It was so hypocritical.
Yeah, listen.
Get the woman to legalize marijuana, but they worry about what the kids are gonna eat, right? Come on, give me a break.
Okey doke.
That's a new healthy choice, Tom.
So
Give me a break, I tell you.
8.6, discussion and possible action regarding non-renewal of non-tenured teachers. 8.6.
This is the non-renewal of non-tenured teachers.
Right.
There are 4 teachers there. Because of reductions from the change in positions in the budget, these teachers have been notified that they are non-renewed for next year.
Okay. Is there a motion? It's, the wording is on that document, motion made by, seconded by, does everybody have that? Is there anybody who wants to make this motion?
So should we make the motion for the conversation purposes? If we're
Yeah.
in agreement with
Yeah,
this?
I
Okay.
think so.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that the contract of employment for the following union staff will not be renewed for budgetary reasons for the 2018-19 school year, and further move that the superintendent of schools is directed to advise such persons in writing of the action.
Is there a second for discussion purposes?
Second.
Okay, there's a second. Okay, discussion? You want to go ahead?
I have a question. A couple of these positions, I'm concerned about how we're going to make do without them.
One of the people was on a one-year contract, and that's probably not that issue. Another person has been notified because they could be bumped by somebody, and if that does happen, we need to notify them before May 8th, so it's possible, but it's one of those, we explained at the time, you may not be bumped, it just depends, but we have to notify you because the deadline is May 1st. The other people, because of, again, what's gone forward in the budget, were notified of those positions because of the bumping process and the changing of the way that we're utilizing positions, that through the ripping process and the contract, that they're the ones that could be losing those positions. Again, we talked about the process a variety of times in the budget as to the changes, how they're going to be covered, that we can make them work, that we will be making them work. And this is just the unfortunate and difficult part of that process.
So the classes that are offered today for the children will still be offered tomorrow after these folks are no longer here?
Well, these people are out here today with the school year. But they will not be back next year. And as I've stated, again, with electives, it's always a wonder what kids sign up for and what runs from year to year. But we are offering the same classes next year as we've offered this year. Elective-wise, some may run and some may not, depending on what students sign up for and class enrollment numbers. But we are offering the same classes. When you talk about the English position, and you talk about interventions, we are offering and providing interventions for students, but we are doing it in a different way. So that was one. Technically, I guess you could say that we are changing the way that we are offering some of our middle school interventions for reading and writing.
So with regards to the programming, who's going to be teaching that? And is it a qualified person?
Yes. And we will only have qualified people teaching the right classes, absolutely. And I don't know which programming or which class you're talking about, but we would certainly have the appropriate people teaching that.
Well, there's a difference, right? Someone can be qualified to teach it, but that doesn't mean they haven't taught it in a while, right? Because you have some bumping that's going on, right, from teachers that says, I can teach this, I'm qualified to teach it, but they haven't really taught it in 15 years. So I think I'm concerned about losing some of the experience in the programming side of things that, that a teacher has that specific skill set and is educated in that versus, or an English teacher. And is it an elective, or is it really because the programming is what people are, that's the biggest deal right now.
Are you talking computer programming?
Yes, computer
Okay,
programming.
so,
Yeah.
just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
We have qualified people to be able to teach those classes. These are the decisions that we made, myself, with building principals, looking at certifications, looking at departments, looking at needs, to be able to make the right decisions around how this has to fall out.
I think it's just unfortunate. I'm sorry, Joe, did I cut you?
No, I just haven't heard a plan. I mean, I've heard what you're saying. You're saying that you've got a, but there's teachers here that I've heard, and I guess it's obviously a little late here, but, I'm going to say it, there hasn't been clarity on your plan, on who is going to be teaching these courses.
I don't know, I
know you
don't
don't
know that I
normally-
normally would do that, but I can tell you, I sit with the building principal and we take a look at the courses and those needs. Those recommendations come from those conversations with the building principal. I'm not going to make them alone. We have to have that type of a conversation. I've seen the sheets, the plans are all done, where we're looking at who can do what, and we're talking with people and we're figuring all of that out. I don't have all of that for you here right now, but the plan is in place, and it is a well thought out, well planned process that will have students with highly qualified, appropriate people teaching their classes.
Other thoughts, comments, discussion?
The only coming, just because we talked about special ed, I'd like to know how we're offering interventions. Maybe you and I can talk about that, since I might not have heard that before, but just to be sure that we are offering those interventions to prevent students from being identified who don't need, or just to be sure that we're giving kids support.
Absolutely.
That they need. So I'd like to know about that at some time too.
And maybe in program subcommittee, we can even talk about some of what we need to be talking about as a district and really working on as part of the plans next year anyhow, is our tiered intervention process with the district. Because I think there's some places where we do things well, and some places where we need improvement, and this is part of that change and looking at things.
I'm feeling angst at this point because I feel that, I don't know all of these teachers. I don't know any of them personally, but I have heard specifically about one that brings an energy and an interest to a particular area that has been lacking in the past, and that there's been, this person's been able to revitalize a particular area, and to lose that person and maybe go to somebody who's qualified but maybe doesn't have the same energy and draw as somebody else. That's just it's difficult to make that kind of a decision.
It is. This has been a very difficult project, and one that has had to have a lot of conversations and a lot of looking at things and a lot of difficult decisions that have had to be made. But we also needed to make this week some difficult decisions around enrollment numbers and what are we needing to offer. There's the technology department overall needs to take a look at, and we're in the process of starting to make a 5-year plan and see what do we need to shift and change and do sure that we are properly programming for the future of this department. In particular, this is something that's going to have to change and evolve. This is just, it is an unfortunate part of it, but I know that the people in this department are ready to be able to step up, do what needs to be done right now, moving forward to next year, and then moving forward and looking at the future. I've had some great conversations with people that are very excited about looking at how can we plan and change and evolve the department and move it forward. So I'm excited about that. I think it is an exciting day.
Yes, I would just add that, it is difficult. I think we all agree, can agree on that. It's not easy, but also, we have a framework to work within relative to the teacher's contracts too, in terms of how reduction in force is structured. And we have to stay within that framework.
Absolutely.
Right.
I mean, I've worked closely with the union on this, with the administration on this. We've all worked through this together. It is not pleasant, it is not easy, but it is, steps that need to happen.
Are you ready to vote? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Dave, are you?
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay. All those voting no, please raise your hand. So there are 2 noes. And Dave, you abstain?
Yes.
Okay, and 1 abstention. Okay, so that brings us to discussion and possible action regarding the strategic plan.
That is handout 8.7, and also provided with that meeting prior to you as well. Judy and Amy were
Rich?
and Rich.
And
I didn't see you-
Michael.
I didn't see you come in. And Michael, the list of people who are part of the committee are all on here. What I think was wonderful about the committee was that it had input and voices from all 3 towns. That we did have, we had Hebron and Marlborough and Andover Board of Selectmen people here as part of this. We had teachers, we had students, we had parents, and board members all working together, and administrators all working together to really take a look at our vision, our mission, creating goals, creating commitments, our theory of action, and then objectives that allow us to be very clear around how we will reach these goals, what are the strategies, the timelines, the people, resources needed, and what are the measures and outcomes. As you look through here, we really are connecting every one of these goals back to, you can find it speaks to our district commitment. It allows us to realize the theory of action and supports our vision and our mission. So I'll take any questions you have, or certainly other members of the committee to have. But at this point, it's really just having the board any feedback or discussion and being able to say, yes, this is our strategic plan moving forward, and wanting to be able to use this to guide the processes and the decisions we make as a district.
Now, this one that you just handed out, the draft, is this the same as the draft that was handed out 2 months ago? Okay.
Yes.
This is the one I went through.
Yep, it is exactly the same.
I do have some comments. Sure. Some questions. I don't know if you want to
Go ahead, yes.
Okay. I guess there was some language I found in here that was kind of foreign to me, and maybe it's new to the teaching profession with the new new descriptions of curriculum, et cetera, but the word dispositions comes up repeatedly. And I always thought in terms of disposition as, the placement of things in array in a certain manner. And I even went to Wikipedia and looked it up, and it did say that disposition is also a person's inherent qualities of mind and character, because I was thinking that it sounded more to somewhere their personal integrity or personal qualities were something that better described that element. But I guess I get it. Could you give me a feedback on the use of that term? Because it's almost every page we see it once or twice. Disposition, disposition, disposition.
And it's been a big part of the work that I know I've done around 21st century skills and the work that has been done by other professionals around describing skills and dispositions and knowledge, and really putting it into those three different buckets. So it's been a common term that through the research that I've done and work that I've done, that they're using to describe those softer skills like student agency or honesty or drive, things like.
And I think just for the edification of people who are not in the educational profession now, right, it might not hurt to have a little description of that somewhere or a definition.
If you can add a definitions page, it might be helpful.
Yeah, just some of the terms that are used that might be helpful that other people might find a little different. Also, I know I understand what it is, but the term grit for some people it's a term that's being used a lot now. But
And that was used as an example under Goal 1. So identify and define skills and dispositions expected of region 8 students for success in college, career, and citizenship to include, it probably should even say such things as tolerance, grit, problem-solving integrity, because we're not saying that those are them yet, that we need to still define what it is. We would pull together staff and faculty and administration, the person's responsible for creating this list, and say what it is we think. So I could even, rather than saying it could say to include ideas such as
yeah, that would be helpful, I think, to get the concepts across. And also, there's another term here, portrait of a graduate.
And
That
I
would
think
be
that
another
should
one.
be, it is in.
Yeah.
So again, portrait of a graduate, it is the skills, dispositions, and knowledge that we want our kids to graduate with. So again, it's in quotes because what do we want to produce? What is that thing supposed to look like? What are you supposed to have all as part of you when you walk out the door to make sure that we're saying this is our portrait of a graduate? It's a very popular term that's being used as we look at college and career readiness.
And some of these items in here too are going to have to be funded, right, in terms of professional development. Like it says, offer annual professional development to coaches and club advisors about skills, dispositions, and opportunities for careers for students. And one of them says summer 2018 is the target for that. So I'm wondering, do we have professional development funds available, or have they been incorporated in, and also, many of the coaches are not teachers. So are we providing training for people outside of the school as well?
So as we take a look at, absolutely, if you're a coach who would be somebody here who are expecting you to be able to know all of this, then that would be part of what our expectations are. We have professional development monies set aside in general. We'll have to take a look at, is this really something that even costs money to really kick off or not? Because it might be a very beginning part of this that we can do internally ourselves. So, and again, until we know what our skills and dispositions are, we can't really work on that. So more around opportunities for careers for students might be where we would start with that. We have people here who do college and career planning already, so we can take a look at how do we use the resources we have to maybe kick this off already.
Okay. All right, and this is getting already, I guess I'm thinking, but, on the same page on the upper right-hand corner, one of the goals is, for the guidance department to develop and utilize college preparation and choice criteria for students, and then, and the results.
Which page are you on?
The same page,
Yeah, the page, there are not page numbers on
But
it.
it's
So
number
it's under
three.
goal 1,
Is it number 3, number?
right above.
goal- Okay, 2C?
Yes.
2C. Thank you.
I guess it's the same numbers the one I have, but, yeah, oh, 2C, yeah, here, yeah, 2C. Increase in National Clearinghouse freshman to sophomore college persistence rate from 95% to 98%. I assume that means that they stay in college. From 95, how did you arrive at that percentage? I'm just curious because my experience personally in college and with others ever since, with kids I know and have worked with, some kids just aren't cut out for college. So how do you arrive at a figure like that? Well, and how do you meet that goal?
So the 95% is our current rate for our freshman to sophomore college persistence. That's what we currently know. By working with the guidance department to utilize college prep and choice criteria, we're hoping that exactly what you just said, that if students maybe need to be looking at other options or other choices, that we're helping them to make good choices before, as they're heading out and making those decisions, so that over time we would see that persistence rate hopefully increasing because we've helped them to make better choices. It may or may not. We don't know, but it's at least it's a target. We can take a look at that. We'd evaluate it over time. Again, as with any strategic plan, you need to have an annual and ongoing review of all of the goals, checking are they is it working or not, is it reasonable or not, are the timelines appropriate, and do things need to be adjusted. So this is the starting point.
Okay. And then, under goal 2, develop professional staff to promote positive school climate. And 1A.
Okay, sorry, where are you again? 1A.
1A.
Goal 2.
Goal 2. Revise, update district hiring manual and rubrics timeline, April 2018.
It's done.
It's done. Okay. 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 So that's, I could use this now. And, I think the goal 5, the last one. Here it says, objective 1, develop and follow a 5-year facility and field use and improvement plan. And I'm wondering, you can develop a 5-year facility and field use and improvement plan, but whether or not you follow it, my experience in planning, and I worked with a campus planner at Wesleyan for years, and we never followed it. You know, we never followed it to the levy.
It's going to have to change.
And so,
right.
yeah, I don't know that you can develop something, and I think to follow it, you know, might be too narrow language where that particular element. It's a guide.
It's a guide.
It's a guide.
And so maybe the wording could be used as a guide, but the fact of the matter is that we wanted to state, we wanted it actually used. That it's not we created it,
Use
it's
it
on
as
the
a
shelf.
guide for any, because unforeseen things that come along, again, like broken windows, like windows that don't work,
And that's
you
true.
change your
with any
whole
plan.
plan.
And
And
you
you have to be able to
will
follow
have to
it.
evolve, sure. All of those things will always have to evolve. And, you know, this strategic plan,
Right.
we're going to follow it as best we can, but it's going to, it will have to change and evolve over time as well.
And then the other one, right next to it, 1A, strategy. RHAM facilities strategy, 1A, RHAM Facilities Director, Town of Heber Parks and Rec Director, coaches, YOE, athletic and facilities subcommittees meet to discuss needs and develop a plan. I think you need to include Marlboro and Andover.
I think the town of Hebron's in there because we contract with them.
Yeah, that's the only
pretty
reason
far.
why. Right, I don't use people's names, I try to use titles in making decisions, because people come and go. But using titles, so it's exactly, that's Rich Clarko's position, and because
That's
he is.
it? Okay.
So,
Because we all have parks and rec directors.
absolutely, but Hebron's is included because of the role that this person plays in the care and maintenance of our field and all of that.
Okay. All right. That's all I have.
I just have one thing, because just, I had brought up the interventions before, but for, it's goal 1, and it's 1B, create a list of common tiered interventions. 1B, sorry. It says complete by June 19th. It's just to create a list, but I don't see any measurements, how we're going to see how many kids are in intervention, how many kids are leaving, what does it mean to struggle, that is measured by what, and maybe that's what you're going to use your data person for. But,
Absolutely,
but that hasn't been delineated, that might.
and that's more of a common expectation and practice of what we'd be doing here, but before we can even, one of the things we need to make sure is that we're communicating elementary, middle, high school around what are our expectations, and then how do we support students in our tiered intervention process. This is simply about a communication of their expectations across the board. This is not around measures around the number of our students in or out of interventions or success with them or anything else. This is just specifically about having when you go back to the goal, having a variety of learning opportunities and where students are going to experience growth and develop skills, competencies, and dispositions. So it's making sure that our intervention system also makes that alignment. We will internally, not related to all of this, we're going to be looking at and measuring and looking at our smarter balance expectation, our special education goals and the needs of our different students and the tiered interventions and those strategies. And we will be, for all of those students, expecting them to gain the skills and dispositions to make sure that they are meeting our portrait of a graduate, that they are engaged in the classroom using thinking physical strategies, and that we're providing students with opportunities to career. So our tiered intervention system, we will know is working well for these students if they are making all of these goals in these other areas, but we don't have a specific 1, 2 tiered interventions and where are we with that process in the strategic plan. It's an internal plan within the schools, but not a large goal strategically.
It's just something to consider.
Yep.
You know, to have an actual internal intervention program might be
We will absolutely be
a
doing
measure
that.
of success, one that's clearly defined.
And that's what we plan to create as part of our special education department goal next year. And we'll be reporting that information regularly as we develop it as well.
Can I say that I'm horrified that we don't have one already, that this has been going on for so many years, and I'm just, no comment necessary. Back to 1B, which I think this is talking about. We set the timeline to happen before June, this is completed by June 19th, 2019. Is it possible we could say October 2018? We have this list of common, I mean, it doesn't even have to do with meetings, it can be just
September 2018.
you know, like, I'm just thinking like that it's just having a conversation.
We can try.
I move that
further back to, I think you should at least have a work in progress list, like, that you're adding to or whatever by
Do you want
September.
September or-
I think that's reasonable.
September 2018.
It's just a list.
We think that it's easy to have those conversations. And we're still, it's at least a starting point.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Mr. O'Connor, and then we'll, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Okay, so I have a few. One, I think that this needs to be gone over for formatting, for consistency with capitalization. There are too many parentheses, you know. Just on the very first page introduction, it says the second paragraph, region 8N stakeholders. I don't even know what that is. I think it's a typo. But I would definitely look through it. There's some in the grids, some start with capitals and some do not, and some titles are entirely capital and some are not. So just going through it for editing purposes, I think would be helpful. Okay, I thought, let me see, introduction, then the kind of like the next, I don't know, graphic, then who's on the committee, background information. That next page, I thought we agreed on mission to take the word full out.
I don't think we'd ever agreed to that.
I think you
Okay.
talked about it.
Well, I'm uncomfortable with that still, so I think this needs to come back to us because of lots of research and a lot of reading, and I went to every committee and I made one request, and I feel strongly, but that can be noted, and I can disagree. The numbers should not be numbered. I had people talk to me and say under district commitments how disappointed they were as residents of the community that we have number one, fiscally efficient. They think that that could be in there, but they do not think that that should be number one, that that is offensive to them, and they really disliked that.
So you'd like the numbers removed, would you also like me to just change the order of them as well? Doesn't matter.
I don't think you need to change the order because I don't think we ordered them.
No, we
I think
didn't.
they were, so maybe alphabetize them would be another way of doing it and don't have them listed with numbers.
All of the numbers.
And then I guess I still am requesting to have full out, but that's a request. And then as I said, I went to almost every meeting and I am disappointed at that. Then my final question is, really, we heard at the last meeting that some of this would be difficult to implement with a reduction of a guidance position. And I'd like to hear that spoken to because one of the things that Mrs. Shea pointed out did indeed have guidance as part of the whatever, I don't know, the strategy or objective or, yeah, I'm sorry? Person responsible. So how that will occur, like what the plan is for that. I'd like to hear the plan.
So if you want me to try to find all of them right now. And
All of
speak to
what?
that, all of the different every different objective that has a person responsible listed as somebody in the guidance department? Or
No, I don't expect that now. I think
Okay.
that's reasonable, but I mean, it was pointed out at the last board meeting, so it would have seemed reasonable that, you know, we would have already looked at that, but fair enough. So not for right now.
So is
So-
there just one person, I mean, can she might have an answer?
So I just wanted to know how you wanted me to, if you wanted me to speak to each one or just overall in general. I did hear what they have to say and I did go back and look it over. Some of what's listed here, they already do. So for example, when you talk about on goal 3, I'm just going to pick one quickly, on goal 3, objective 2, under persons responsible to be, and it's the visits to other schools, industries, and post-secondary schools for course offering ideas and intern and externships. The guidance department already visits other schools. They visit colleges, they visit other schools. They are very knowledgeable about where our students can go, whether it's post-secondary or other options that they have. And that are if it might be schools, whatever, they're aware of all of that. Our CTE coordinator already works with and takes a look at, and there's a lot of connecting with outside industries and other connections that way. So those things are already happening. What we need to do is to focus a little bit more on starting to build our capacity to do intern and externships, which will take a little bit of time. If you notice, this goal is a 2020 goal to have that completed, because actually developing a process for intern and externships takes quite a bit of time, energy, and budget, because you also have to be able to get students to and from places and build relationships with people. So that's one that we'll be able to do over time. But again, remember, we're also going to have a pupil personnel supervisor that will be helping the guidance department with this as well, so things will be done a little differently than they have been in the past. If you take a look at, that's also similar to the preview there. If you take a look at integrated assessments that measure tolerance, grit, problem solving, integrity, and adaptability, guidance department coordinators, director of curriculum. That also, once we've decided what those measures are going to be, that's something that guidance can integrate into their developmental guidance lessons, that they already do. That departments can integrate into their courses that they're already teaching. They teach a lot of these skills already, we just don't necessarily know that or measure it, so they'll be able to do that as well. I guess the overall response I would have is, again, the guidance department is speaking from where they are now, and by bringing in a supervisor, having somebody to really oversee that department, they still have the opportunity to have a department coordinator for that department. They will be able to integrate and do these things, and it's a time process. Many of these timelines are over several years. So I do think that it is feasible and possible, and will be achievable.
Thank you. My other suggestion is that this document looks too casual. I would write out things like UCTE. I would write out what that is, because some people may not know. Then I saw some other things that, like PD, I think is casual rather than professional development. And there were a few other things, fact,
We'll
time.
get rid of all the acronyms.
Yeah, just
Or
with,
put them in a glossary, is that okay? Because I know dispositions has already been asked about it and some other things.
I don't know, I would think it would be better, rather than having all the parentheses or different things, just to write them out so that one wouldn't have to interrupt their reading and look back at a glossary. I would just try to write it out. I think that would be a more professional document. Mr. Gustanian?
I don't have any additional changes.
Okay. Ms. DiMatteo?
I don't have anything to add right now.
Okay, Mr. Schumann?
Yeah, I have about 18 or 19. I'm more than kidding. But I'd like Mrs. Law to put my mind at ease. I assume that the majority of these things, I should say things, these ideas and these strategies and objectives are already in the works. Am I not right?
Many of them are,
I would-
some of them aren't.
I understand that, and they all could use probably a little bit of tweaking or switching, but, because I go by, and you say yourself, we don't know if they're working, but every year I look at, over the years, I've looked at the graduation of the school, okay? And I don't want to give Scott Leslie and their crew a big head, but they are doing something right, because so many of the students graduate, and so many of them go on to further their education, and we've given them the education they need to go to the next level. So we're doing something right to begin with. All right, so no offense, but I don't think you need all these pages in here, to be honest with you. But that's my opinion, all right? But it sounds like big corporate stuff myself. No, I'm not.
No, and I think you're right that we are doing a really great job. in
I think we
these
are.
areas, and we should be able to speak to that and quantify that better so that everyone can understand that.
Well, I understand it at the end of graduation.
Well, but there's a lot of other parts that it's not just talking.
No, the proof is in the pudding, as the old saying goes. Okay?
We're just defining our pudding.
Mhm. That's all I'll say. You put my mind at ease.
Okay.
Okay, so are we hearing input from, or is this is just board time? I don't know if we're hearing input or they've had their opportunity, or there aren't that many people here. Does anybody have any input, Mr. Jacobson or Dr. Cerruti? I think there's only two for us. I'm sorry.
The only thing I can say is the document represents a compromise for what I think the total majority of the group wanted as goals and objectives for the district. You know, we've all sat around the table and talked about it through 6 or 7 meetings. Had a fairly good time doing it too. Have to admit, it's pretty funny. But, you know, we disagreed on some things and agreed on others and compromised, and this is what ended up with the document to go forward to the board with the hopes of helping us, giving us as administrators some guidelines as well, rather than what we've had in the past. I mean, to be honest, it's pretty general. A lot of those goals, when you look at them, are pretty broad-based. We could fit a lot of things under those. But going into some specific things, like you'll talk about guidance and career technical education. We talked about a 7-12 continuum of that, which, you know, we have a pretty good handle on high school. We're looking at middle school too, going up. And those things fit under this plan as well.
Okay.
Are we looking to accept it today, or are we, like, this is a draft document, so what is it that we're supposed to be doing today?
So there's minor tweaks as far as editing and revising to it, but it was meant for the board to accept it so it becomes no longer a draft, but a working document for the district that has the work of the district.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, is there anything else on the board?
I think, personally, I'd like to see the final draft, or the final product. That
Would be added?
incorporates our
And you
comments,
can, that's perfectly fine as well.
you know, and give us one last chance to go through it. It's a lot to look and absorb. And unless, you know, you have a time frame you have to be working within, could we do this, you know, could we see the next draft or this next
In
month? or June or
Absolutely.
whatever?
My goal would be that it is an accepted plan by the end of the school year, so that we are using it to drive, you know, as we finish our professional development at the end of the year, that we're using it to say, this is guiding the work that we'll be doing next year, that we can start to implement some of these processes. So, absolutely, I can bring it back edited and revised in May.
Does the strategic planning committee, does that go away, or does this committee stay in existence and then look at this on a monthly basis to see how things are going or receive questions from the board?
Right now, that planning committee, the committee who pulled it together, isn't meeting anymore and doesn't need to meet at this point. And really, the work of all of the goals and the objectives in here is now going to happen in a lot of other different formats and committees and things like that. So when you talk about identifying skills and dispositions, there'll be a group representative of teachers and administrators and students here that will come together and build those and create those and then be able to share them. So the next steps within here will happen in a variety of different ways with a variety of different committee members. I think it would be beneficial for the committee who brought the report together to maybe meet a couple of times throughout the year to just take a look at and provide any updates and feedback. We can have a conversation on it, but we don't have to meet monthly. I think maybe quarterly at most, maybe twice a year, middle of the year and end of the year.
And is that how we would get information on how we're doing it?
I would be providing regular information to the board on all of the goals and updates on that at board meetings. Absolutely.
Okay. So where do we stand on this? What are we doing? I'm unclear.
Let's see what's on it.
Is that comfortable to everyone? Okay. Reports of committees? Anything from athletic?
I was asked to create a summary sheet of where all of the committees are, updates from the last meeting, as well as any outstanding issues. I went back over all of my materials as best I could. I'm certainly not speaking for the committee, so if people have other things that they think need to be on there, you're absolutely correct, and we can certainly add them, but I did try to pull that information together so you had something to work from.
Just to say, Ms. DiMatteo and I are planning to meet because given there's a new board member and a resignation and a request or two to make some changes, we do plan to make some minor, or I shouldn't say minor, just some tweaks to committee assignments, so that should be forthcoming before the next meeting, right? Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. I'm on the negotiation committee, and it's not shown here.
Negotiations. Well, I'll put your name on my piece of paper.
Is that because I'm trying to get one page?
I don't know, but we're re-looking at it anyway, right? So,
Well, while we're looking at this, I mean, a comment, some committees have 4 members, some have 5. So if we're going to be doing this, revamping this, what is the number we're looking for on each committee? 5, 4, 3?
Enough so when there's a meeting, we can have one
yeah.
and not cancel it 5 minutes before.
And there are newish members, so, I'm really comfortable sending out an email, I think you would be too, Amy, to see if we could, the committees people would want to be on, and we'll do our best to honor that and maybe have you rank them or something. Because, I think Kathleen asked some good questions, but she was new, and then we have Rob and we have Stephanie, so I know that we were looking at a change for you, so it seems like a nice opportunity to do that.
So we should send you an email?
I think we should work backwards from what you just said and have a little bit of a plan, Amy and I, of what we would think would be the number, if it's 4 or 5, and then ask people to rank them so that we could then best accommodate people's schedules and see if that works. I think we have to design it to make that work a little, I think. Do we? A little bit? Because if we just send it out to everybody, I think we want to balance, Amy pointed out, I agree with her, we want to balance towns and we want to balance.
So what I was suggesting,
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, is that I thought you were asking us to resubmit what we would like, what committees we would be on to you as the chair.
Can you rank them though?
And rank them, yeah, whatever,
Okay.
whatever, if I
fine.
want to be on this, I want to be on that, but I think we should have 5 members on every committee because of what Sue just mentioned. Yeah, because we can't do a finance committee meeting and we had no quorum. So, I mean, it's the same thing. If you're not gonna have a quorum, then, you know, with 3 or 4, you have 4 people on some committees, so if 2 people only show up, then you have no quorum.
Well, it's quorum if you have 4 people on it.
Well, maybe if you have 4,
But
right?
is it like,
But
so
Would it be
it's
better to
better
be
or
small?
more?
Yeah, it might be better if they're small.
What do you think?
I don't know.
I didn't
We
even
can have-
know
we can
it
have
was
that
a quorum.
They all
discussion.
show up, that's great.
Yeah.
But we can't,
A lot of people aren't showing up.
I'd like to voice it's frustrating to me that I do what I have to do to make the meetings, and then 5 minutes before the meeting, it gets canceled. So I don't know how we avoid that, what we can do, but we need to all respect each other's time. And there's a lot of committees that are, you know, that we have here, and if we can't commit to the committee, don't put your name there.
So can we kind of consider what you are saying, Sue and Joe and anybody else, and figure out if we're better with smaller committees to meet whatever we have to meet? Because I agree with Amy. I didn't know that I know we can't run with 1 person, but I didn't know, I thought we could run with 3 regardless, but I don't know. So can we do you can feel free, send it to both of us and Dr. Law if you know the committees you want to be on. And then we'll figure things out at the same time, and if there's any kind of whatever, we'll get back to you. How's that? So like why don't you list your 5 top committees, and 1 through 5 for us? How many are there?
I don't have 5. I give you my top 2.
Well, but you might not get your top choices is the problem with that. So how about 1 through 4?
The problem that I have is that I'm only available on certain days because I'm on other.
Just list that. We'll try to figure that out, okay? We will be very accommodating. If we need to get back to people, we will. Because for instance, when we had that board retreat thing, I had to get back to people and scrap the plan I had because not everybody was available. So just submit us your top 4, and if you get to 3 and 4, you'd really rather not, say really rather not or whatever, which is fine, that you're only interested in 2, and we'll take everything into consideration. Right, between the 2 of us, I think we'll, all right.
Maybe a suggestion. There are a lot of different ways that subcommittees can meet, and you're not tied to having to meet monthly, so I don't know if there's other things that you'd want to think about, saying that subcommittees meet quarterly. There's other districts where subcommittees meet as needed, and the subcommittee decides when they feel they need to meet, or they have agenda items. You can meet every other month. So there's a variety of ways that I don't know, because there are a lot of subcommittees in the district that the board can take a look at making it maybe more manageable, but still getting the work done. So I don't know if those are things that you want to think about, but as you're having your conversations, just something to put out there.
Thank you.
I was assigned to the committees when I started.
Right.
I already started those committees, so if I
Pretty
have to
much.
undo that again.
That's good, that's fine,
I'm
just
like,
tell us,
okay.
but just tell us that, you know,
Yeah.
let us know that. We do not want to be disruptive, I promise. It was Amy, and, you know, and it was in a good way, reached out to me and said, should we look at them with a new member? And I think we should, and it's my fault because that we haven't met yet, because I have 1 or 2 requests to move committees, then I have a new member. So if you're happy where you are, we'll try our very best not to touch them, and I don't think we will. So we may have then, whatever, the quorum issue or something, but we'll look at everybody. We'll make you all happy, how's that? For our high days that we get.
The other thing is the times is also the subcommittee meetings will mean it's 6:30. We have some variation in that as well. Does it have to be 6:30?
I don't think so. I mean, was that in policy, Pat?
No, it's just been in practice.
Okay. I do know, and we could ask Kate, I did tell Pat or someone that I went to, and I didn't want to throw this at people because I felt like it was too much of a change and I'm not sure it would even work. But Bloomfield, I think it's Bloomfield, picks the same night always as the board meeting, just so people are used to going. And I don't know how many times a month, but they have, I think they're weekly. I'd have to double check with them. But whether they schedule them for 45 minutes or whatever it is, then the next one, they give a few minutes. And it's just, the board chair said it was a very good idea. And I don't know if it even makes sense, but as Dr. Law said, there are other ways of running committees, and that's what I mean. Maybe we can finish out this school year, and I see the summer as a little bit of a natural break, and just solicit feedback from people if they would like to try something different like that, or how to make this more manageable. But for now, just submit your committees, please. Okay, so are we on the calendar of events?
I would say so.
Okay, calendar of events is in your packet. Well, chair report, what I will actually report is I was recommended a book that has been making me think about the Board of Education. And I don't know if any of you have taken this assessment. It's called Strength Finder. Has anybody taken that assessment?
Yep.
Okay, you did?
Yep.
Is that because of Beverly?
No.
Okay. Okay. Well, in any case, I heard about it at a college session that was extremely impressive. And it's a way of people working together, but it's also a way of managing. And it was very interesting. It went, for me, it was more enlightening. I mean, what we did was very nice in the fall, but it was more enlightening. And it's something I can email you all the title of the book, because I think it's very interesting. And they talked about being on committees at the session I was at, and being on boards and using this tool. So I thought about our board when I was there. So and the other piece on the chair report was what we were just talking about. I see that as one of the core things that Ms. DiMatteo and I are going to be meeting to talk about several things, but one is going to be about these assignments, these committee assignments, because I think due to the nature of the state budget and other things, it kind of got off, well, it did get off track this year. So that's something that we are committed to. So that's my report. The calendar of events is listed as 2017 10.1, 2018. And it brings us right to the end of the year, the 22nd graduation last day. Okay. Then we have student discipline, which is 10.1B.
Are we looking for a motion on this?
And calendar, they're informational. No? Okay, anything on those before we ask for public comments? Okay, public comments?
I have a couple things. Statements here. On the window thing, I really hope you follow Tom's recommendation there to bring in someone to manage this project. It's a lot of work. RHAM has a very, very, very bad record for projects in general when we outsource them. And a $2 million project like this one really needs someone that can focus on making sure the work's being done. making sure that the quality of the windows, the quality of the installation, making sure that you actually get it done on time, making sure that the campus remains safe for not the workers, but everyone else. And also to deal with any damage that they might do to the school property and how that gets resolved. So I do encourage you bring in a clerk of the works. And then on the computer programming, I've been involved in the school for 6 years. 5 years, they've had a very substandard computer programming program here. They weren't able to have a teacher that could actually do a good job here. We finally got one, and what we're doing is to get rid of that. That's a very huge disappointment for such a field that is in such a high demand. We should be encouraging and expanding that program, not reducing it and cutting down the quality of the teacher and the program there.
Okay, public comments? Public comments? Okay, so next we have executive session, so we should make sure, is that on?
Yeah.